Hello friends, welcome to the HFY Ode, where we bring you new science fiction stories, a new world, a new adventure. And yes, there is no robotic or AI voices here, only real human voices with real human touch. So let's start this journey, and please subscribe my channel if you like the stories and press the bell icon for the latest updates. Let's have a story. Okay.
That should have been the first warning. The Galactic Defense Initiative didn't want humans. Not really. When Earth's inclusion was finalized at the 847th Council session, it wasn't a celebration. It was a compromise. A political maneuver to appease the Terran delegation after the humans had stumbled into a border skirmish between the Vryn Collective and the Kalor Empire, inadvertently ending a 3-decade stalemate by doing something so incomprehensibly reckless that both sides withdrew in mutual confusion. "They threw a ship at us," the Vryn ambassador had said during the debrief, mandibles clicking in what might have been disbelief or disgust. "Not missiles, not drones. An entire cargo freighter, with the crew still inside." As screaming. The Kalor representative had simply added, "They were singing." The Council agreed to let Earth join the GDI training program. Not because humanity had proven itself worthy, but because keeping them outside the fence seemed more dangerous than bringing them in where they could be watched. That's how Recruit 4477, listed in the manifest as Henriksen M, ended up on Station Kalos 9, surrounded by 200 of the galaxy's finest military prospects representing 43 species from 16 sectors. And nobody noticed him. Not at first. Master Drill Instructor Kaltesh was a Dravanthi, which meant she had 4 arms, 6 eyes, and approximately 0 patience for mediocrity. She'd been running GDI orientation cycles for 11 years. She knew which recruits would wash out in the first week, usually the ones who flinched during the pressure tests or cried when the gravity doubled during field drills. Humans, she had decided within the first 3 hours, were flinchers. They were small, pale or dark or something in between, but always soft-looking. No exoskeleton, no subdermal plating, no redundant organ systems. They walked on 2 legs like the seraph, but without the seraph's triple-jointed knees or prehensile tail for balance. Their reaction time was decent. Better than the Karathi, worse than the Zelen. But their frame was just too fragile for frontline deployment. Kaltesh made a note in her eval file. Recommend support roles. Engineering. Logistics. Medical. She filed the report and forgot about the humans entirely. There were 9 of them. 9 human recruits scattered across 3 training platoons, all assigned to non-combat tracks by default. It was standard protocol. Let them observe. Let them feel included. Let them rotate out after the 18-month training cycle with a certificate and a polite recommendation for auxiliary placement. Henriksen was in Platoon 7. He sat in the back during briefings. Didn't ask questions. Didn't raise his hand when Kaltesh called for volunteers during the first live drill scenario. When she split the platoon into sparring pairs for hand-to-hand assessment, he was the odd one out, sitting cross-legged against the wall with his datapad, watching. "You," Kaltesh barked, pointing at him with her lower right arm. "Why aren't you drilling?" Henriksen looked up. He was maybe 20 standard years old. Brown hair, brown eyes. Unremarkable. He shrugged. "Odd number, ma'am. No partner." She clicked her mandibles in irritation. "Then shadow drill. I don't care. Move." He stood, stretched, did a few half-hearted punches at the air. Kaltesh returned her attention to the Vryn recruit who was trying very hard not to accidentally disembowel his Kalor sparring partner. Henriksen went back to watching. The first incident happened on day 12. Platoon 7 was running a tactical insertion sim, a standard scenario where the squad had to breach a fortified structure, extract a high-value target, and exfil under fire. It was designed to be difficult. Most rookie platoons failed it 3 or 4 times before they figured out the timing. Kaltesh expected Platoon 7 to fail it 6 times, minimum. They were sloppy. The Karathi twins kept arguing about entry vectors. The Seraph kept forgetting to check his corners. And the human, Henriksen was assigned to observe and provide tactical feedback, which was code for stay out of the way. The first run went exactly as expected. The Vryn breacher triggered the door alarm. Automated turrets shredded the Kalor pointman. The HVT escaped through a back tunnel. Total failure. Second run, better. They made it inside. Still lost half the squad to crossfire. Third run, they extracted the HVT but got pinned in the exfil corridor. Kaltesh was about to call time and reset when Henriksen's voice crackled over the platoon comms. Karathi 1, you've got a maintenance duct at your 4 o'clock. 20 meters, leads to the substructure. The Karathi twin didn't hesitate. She peeled off, found the duct, disappeared into it. Seraph 3, the turret rotation pattern has a 2-second gap every 18 seconds. Northwest corner, you can slip through. The Seraph went. Vryn 2, there's a support beam above the exfil door. The structural integrity is rated for your mass. Climb, overhead route. Henriksen's voice was flat. Matter of fact, he wasn't giving orders, he was just pointing things out. Platoon 7 extracted the HVT in 4 minutes, 12 seconds. New record. Kaltesh pulled the sim logs, ran them back. Henriksen had been sitting in the observation booth the entire time, datapad in his lap, eyes flicking between the live feed and the building schematic. He hadn't moved. He'd just seen it. She made another note. Possible tactical aptitude, monitor. By week 4, Henriksen had a reputation, not a loud one. He didn't showboat, didn't brag, and didn't even speak unless someone asked him a direct question. But the other recruits started noticing. The Vryn called him the Watcher. The Kalor called him the Ghost. The humans, who were still mostly relegated to support duties, just called him Henny and left him alone. During live fire exercises, he never scored the highest. His marksmanship was average. His physical endurance was middle of the pack. He didn't win any of the combat drills, didn't set any records, didn't stand out in any measurable way. But Platoon 7 stopped failing scenarios. Kaltesh couldn't figure out why. The data didn't show anything unusual. Henriksen's individual scores were mediocre. He wasn't leading. He wasn't fighting. He was just there. And somehow, his platoon was consistently outperforming units with better stats, better gear, better everything. She started watching him during drills. He never looked at the enemy. He looked at the terrain, the light sources, the angles, the timing. He looked at his own squad, at the way they moved, at the gaps in their formations, at the things they didn't see. And then he'd say something, quietly, one sentence, one observation. Seraph 3, your shadow's visible from the east corridor. Vryn 2, that doorframe won't hold your weight. Karathi 1, the guard shift changes in 40 seconds. He wasn't giving commands, he was just noticing things. And the platoon moved accordingly. The second incident happened during the Phase 2 evaluation. This was the big one. The test that determined whether you moved on to advanced tactical training or got shuffled into support placement. It was a 12-hour endurance scenario. Capture and hold a strategic position against escalating waves of enemy combatants. Full contact simulation, pain feedback enabled. If you got hit, you felt it. Most platoons lasted 6 hours before their defensive line collapsed. Platoon 7 drew the worst position on the map. A low-ground bunker with no natural cover and 3 exposed approach vectors. Kaltesh almost felt bad for them. Almost. The scenario began at 0600 hours. First wave hit at 0610. Standard suppression fire. Platoon 7 hunkered down, returned fire, held position. Second wave at 0645. Heavier. Flanking maneuver from the East Ridge. Henriksen's voice, calm. Karathi 1, collapse the left barricade. Funnel them into the kill box. She did. The enemy poured into a narrow choke point. Platoon 7 cut them down. Third wave. Fourth wave. Fifth. By hour 8, the other platoons were watching on the monitors. This wasn't supposed to be possible. The scenario was designed to be unwinnable after Wave 7. Platoon 7 held through Wave 9. Kaltesh checked the logs. Henriksen hadn't fired a shot. He was sitting in the bunker's secondary chamber, datapad on his knees, running terrain analysis and probability mapping in real time. Every 30 seconds, he'd mutter something into comms. Reposition here, reinforce there. Watch that corner. He wasn't commanding, he wasn't leading. He was just showing them what he saw. And they trusted him. The breaking point came at hour 11. Wave 12 was the nightmare scenario. Full orbital strike simulation. The bunker was about to be leveled. Standard protocol. Evacuate and regroup. Henriksen said, "Stay." The Seraph's voice crackled back, shaky. "Stay? We'll be vaporized." "No. The targeting system has a calibration delay. 3.2 seconds between lock and fire. The strike will hit the western ridge first. Shockwave will collapse the overhang. We use the debris as cover. Wait for it." Silence. Then the Kaylor. "You're insane." Henriksen didn't argue. The orbital strike came down. The western ridge exploded into fire and shrapnel. The overhang collapsed exactly as Henriksen said it would. Platoon 7 hunkered behind the debris field, waited out the firestorm, and emerged when the smoke cleared. They held until the scenario timer ran out. 12 hours, 0 casualties, news station record. Kaltesh pulled Henriksen into her office that night. He sat across from her, hands folded in his lap. Didn't squirm. Didn't fidget. Just waited. She studied him with all 6 eyes. "What are you?" she asked. He blinked. "Ma'am, you're not a soldier. You're not a tactician. You barely qualify as a combatant." She leaned forward. "But you just held an indefensible position for 12 hours against an unbeatable scenario. So, I'll ask again. What are you?" Henriksen thought about it. "I'm good at noticing things," he said finally. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." Kaltesh's mandibles clicked. She pulled up his file, scrolled through it. Earth. Contractor family. No military background. Applied to the GDI program on a whim. Scored average on every single aptitude test. She looked up. "How did you see the orbital strike timing?" "I didn't. I guessed." "You guessed?" "Yeah. The system's got a rhythm. Patterns." Everything does." He shrugged. "I just pay attention." Kaltesh wanted to be angry. This wasn't how soldiers worked. This wasn't doctrine. This wasn't training. This was just some human kid who looked at the world sideways and saw things nobody else did. And she had no idea what to do with him. She dismissed him and upgraded his file to Advanced Evaluation Required. Word spread fast. By week 6, other platoons were requesting Henriksen for joint drills. Not as a combatant, as an observer. They wanted him in the booth, watching, calling out the things they missed. The instructors started calling him the analyst. The recruits started calling him the freak. Henriksen didn't care. He just kept watching, and Platoon 7 kept winning. The thing about being invisible is that people forget you're listening. Serm Henriksen learned this on week 8, sitting in the corner of the commissary while the instructors talked shop over their evening rations. They didn't notice him. They never did. He had a particular talent for occupying space without drawing attention. Something he'd picked up as a kid when his parents dragged him to corporate functions where children were expected to be decorative and silent. So he sat, ate his protein paste, and listened. Complete waste of resources, Instructor Javik was saying. The Zellen's chromatic plates shifted from blue to irritated orange. 18 months of training for what? So they can file reports and fix air recyclers? Protocol is protocol, Kaltesh replied, not looking up from her datapad. The council mandated integration. We integrate. The council mandated we pretend to integrate. There's a difference. Javik stabbed at his food. You've seen the projections. 5 years from now, maybe 3 humans will still be in active service. The rest will wash out or transfer to civilian sectors. They're too soft for this. Henriksen isn't. Javik's plates flickered yellow. Surprise. The Watcher, please. He's a statistical anomaly. One lucky kid with pattern recognition doesn't validate an entire species. Luck doesn't hold through 12 consecutive scenario victories. Doesn't matter. He's not command material. Can't lead if you won't fight. Javik leaned back, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. Put him in intelligence analysis. That's where he belongs. Let him crunch numbers somewhere safe while real soldiers do real work. Kaltesh said nothing. Henriksen finished his paste and left. Nobody noticed. The next morning, Henriksen put in a transfer request. Not to intelligence, not to support services, to the Vanguard track. The Vanguard track was what happened when you took the GDI's most aggressive recruits, stripped away anything resembling safety protocol, and dropped them into scenarios designed to simulate actual war. It wasn't training. It was controlled violence with just enough structure to keep people from dying permanently. Mortality rate, 0. Injury rate, 83%. Washout rate, 47%. Only the best of the best even qualified for screening. Henriksen's individual combat scores didn't qualify him for screening. He filed the request anyway. Kaltesh found him in the training bay that afternoon, running laps. Not fast, not slow, just steady. She fell into step beside him. Forearms made her stride look effortless. "You filed for Vanguard," she said. "Yes, ma'am." "You'll be rejected." "Probably." "So why file?" Henriksen kept running. "Because I'm tired of being useful from the sidelines." Kaltesh's eyes narrowed, all 6 of them. "This isn't about proving something, isn't it?" He glanced at her, didn't break stride. "Every species in this program gets evaluated on their own terms. Vryn get tested for strength, Kalor for endurance, Seraph for agility. Humans get tested for nothing because you've already decided we don't measure up. That's not... I sat in the commissary last night, heard Javik, heard you." His voice stayed level, calm. "I'm a statistical anomaly, lucky, pattern recognition, not command material." Kaltesh's mandibles went still. You want me in intelligence because that's the box that fits." "But you didn't build the box for me. You built it for humans, and I'm tired of living in boxes other people built." He stopped running, turned to face her. "So I'm filing for Vanguard, and if I fail on my own terms." Kaltesh studied him. This small, soft, entirely unremarkable human who'd just spent 8 weeks making her best platoon unbeatable without throwing a single punch. "You won't fail," she said quietly. "Ma'am, you'll be rejected. Vanguard doesn't accept transfer requests from recruits who don't meet baseline combat metrics. It's automatic. The system won't even flag it for review." "Then I guess that's that. Unless someone overrides the system." Henriksen's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Attention, full and complete. So Kaltesh pulled her datapad, keyed in her command authorization, approved the transfer with an instructor waiver. "You have 48 hours to prep," she said. "Vanguard screening is a live fire scenario. Full contact, no observers, no support. You fight or you wash out." She met his gaze. "Are you sure about this?" Henriksen smiled. It was a small, crooked thing. "No," he said, "but I'm doing it anyway." The Vanguard screening took place in Arena Sigma 7, a combat simulator the size of a small city. 30 recruits entered. 15 would advance. The rules were simple. Survive, adapt, win. There were no teams, no platoons. Every recruit was on their own. Henriksen drew starting position 30. Deep in the industrial sector, no cover, no supplies. Just him and whatever he could scavenge. The klaxon sounded. He moved. Most recruits made the same mistake. They went loud, grabbed the biggest weapon they could find, and started hunting. Henriksen went quiet. He found a maintenance tunnel within the first 3 minutes. Narrow, dark, barely wide enough for him to squeeze through. He crawled in, pulled a vent grate shut behind him, and waited. Above him, boots pounded past, shouting, gunfire. The heavy crash of someone going through a wall. He pulled his datapad. No network access, standard for screening scenarios, but the device still had local processing. He called up the arena schematic, studied it. The industrial sector connected to 4 other zones: residential, commercial, military, and central hub. Most recruits would head for the military zone. Weapons cache, tactical advantage, which meant it would be a bloodbath. The residential zone was a trap. Narrow corridors, too easy to get pinned. Commercial was open ground. Sniper heaven. That left the hub. Henriksen ran the probabilities. The hub was neutral ground, high visibility, no inherent advantage, which meant most recruits would avoid it until late game. He started crawling toward the hub. It took him 40 minutes to cross the industrial sector through the maintenance tunnels. Slow, methodical. He could hear fighting above him, sharp cracks of pulse rifles, the wet thud of impact rounds, someone screaming in a language he didn't recognize. He kept crawling. When he finally emerged, he was alone. The hub was exactly what the schematic promised: a massive open platform with catwalks above, access tunnels below, and absolutely no cover. A kill zone. Henriksen walked to the center, sat down, cross-legged, and waited. The first recruit to spot him was a Kailor. Big, armored, carrying a plasma rifle that probably weighed more than Henriksen did. The Kailor stopped at the edge of the platform, stared. Henriksen waved. "Are you insane?" the Kailor called. "Probably. This is a combat scenario. You're supposed to be fighting." "I am fighting. I'm just doing it differently." The Kailor's head tilted. Confusion, then suspicion. "This is a trap." "Nope, just me." "You're unarmed." "Yep." The Kailor raised the rifle. Henriksen didn't move. "I've been watching the catwalk shadows for the last 6 minutes," he said conversationally. "There's a Vryn sniper on the upper left platform, a Zealand ambusher in the southeast tunnel, and something big in the maintenance shaft directly below you. Probably Dreventhi. Hard to tell from the vibration pattern." The Kailor froze. "If you shoot me, you'll give away your position. All 3 of them will converge. You might take 1, maybe 2 if you're good, but the 3rd one's going to shred you." The Kailor's rifle dipped slightly. "But if you walk away," Henriksen continued, "they'll stay hidden. Wait for a better target, and you'll live long enough to make it to phase 2. Silence. The Kailor stared at him, then lowered the rifle, turned, walked away. Henriksen exhaled. The Vryn sniper never fired. The Zealand ambusher stayed in the tunnel, and the thing in the maintenance shaft, which was definitely Dreventhi, shifted position but didn't emerge. Henriksen stayed exactly where he was. The second recruit was Seraph, fast, nervous, clutching a pulse pistol like it was the only thing keeping her alive. So she spotted Henriksen and nearly shot him on reflex. "Don't," he said. She didn't. "You're the human," she said. "The Watcher." "That's me." "What are you doing?" "Observing." "This is a combat scenario." "I know." She approached slowly, kept the pistol trained on him. "You're not fighting." "I'm surviving. That's the objective. The objective is to win. Winning means making it to phase 2. Doesn't say how." He nodded at her pistol. "You've got maybe 15 rounds left. You've been in 3 firefights already. Burned through your ammo on suppression fire because you're scared of getting flanked." Her tail lashed. Agitation. "There's a weapons cache in the commercial zone," Henriksen said. "Northwest corner, behind the false wall in the 3rd structure. It's marked on the schematic as a utility closet, but the power draw's too high. Probably live ordnance." "How do you know that?" "I looked." She stared at him. "If you go now, you'll beat the rush. Restock, reposition, better odds." "Why are you telling me this?" Henriksen shrugged. "Because I'd rather see you advance than die here." The Seraph's tail stilled. She lowered the pistol. "You're strange," she said. "I get that a lot." She left. Henriksen waited. By the time the scenario timer hit hour 2, Henriksen had encountered 7 recruits. He'd talked to all of them, fought none of them. 3 had left peacefully. 2 had tried to shoot him and missed when he'd accurately called out ambush positions that forced them to relocate. 1 had offered an alliance, which he'd declined. 1 had just stared at him for a full minute before walking away in visible confusion. And the entire time, Henriksen sat in the center of the hub, unarmed, unarmored, completely exposed. Watching. The instructors monitoring the scenario were baffled. "What is he doing?" Javik muttered, eyes locked on the feed. Kaltesh said nothing. On screen, Henriksen stood, stretched, and walked toward the central tower. The central tower was the endgame objective. A fortified structure with a single entrance and a flag at the top. Standard King of the Hill setup. Hold the tower for 10 continuous minutes and you auto-qualified for Phase 2. Nobody had held it for more than 3. Henriksen walked in through the front door. The tower interior was a vertical maze. Staircases, platforms, choke points designed to funnel attackers into kill zones. He climbed. No one stopped him. Not because the tower was empty. There were at least 4 recruits inside. I dug into defensive positions, but because by the time they spotted him, he'd already analyzed their sightlines, mapped their firing arcs, and moved through the gaps. He reached the top floor. The flag room was occupied. A Dravanthi, female, massive, holding a rotary cannon that could have leveled a building. She saw him, didn't fire. "You're the human," she said. "Word travels fast. You talked Korath out of killing you. Convinced Solara to leave. Predicted Javan's ambush route so accurately he thought you were psychic." Her 4 eyes gleamed. "What's your play here, little human?" "No play. Just observation. You're unarmed. I know. I could kill you. You could, but you won't. Why not?" Henriksen nodded at the timer on the wall. "Because you've been holding this position for 8 minutes. 2 more and you auto-qualify. If you shoot me, the sound will draw every remaining recruit in the arena. They'll rush this position. You'll get swarmed." The Dravanthi's mandibles clicked. Amusement. "And if I let you stay? Then we both qualify. This is a competition. Only 15 advance. And right now, there are 17 recruits left in the arena. 2 of us auto-qualify. That leaves 15 slots for 15 people. Everyone wins." She studied him. "You planned this. I observed possibilities, adjusted accordingly. You're not a fighter." "No, I'm not." "Then what are you?" Henriksen smiled. "I'm someone who pays attention." The timer hit 10 minutes. The klaxon sounded. Auto-qualification confirmed. The Dravanthi lowered her cannon. "You're insane," she said. "I get that a lot." 15 recruits advanced to Vanguard Phase 2. Henriksen was one of them, and he'd never fired a shot. That night, Kaltesh found him in the observation deck, staring out at the station's view of the nebula beyond. "You qualified," she said. "I did. Without fighting." "Yeah. That's not how this is supposed to work." Henriksen turned to face her. "You told me I'd fail because I don't meet baseline combat metrics. But combat isn't just about who hits hardest. It's about who survives, who adapts, who sees the battlefield for what it is, instead of what they want it to be. You're lecturing me on combat theory? No, ma'am. I'm just telling you what I see." Kaltesh's mandibles clicked. Irritation, respect. Both. "Phase 2 starts in 72 hours, she said. "It's going to be harder. Faster. No one's going to listen to you talk your way out of a firefight." "I know. And you're still going through with this?" "Yes." "Why?" Henriksen looked back at the nebula, the swirling colors, the endless dark. "Because someone has to show them we're not fragile," he said quietly. "We're just different." Kaltesh left him there and updated his file one more time. Recommend full Vanguard advancement. Non-standard combatant. Unknown potential. Phase 2 of Vanguard training wasn't held on Station Kelos 9. It was held on Tyrith 4, a moon with 1.7 standard gravity, an atmosphere composed mostly of sulfur compounds and weather patterns that could charitably be described as actively hostile to life. The GDI had built a training complex there 30 years ago, specifically because it was the kind of place that broke recruits fast. So if you couldn't handle Tyrith 4, you couldn't handle deployment. Henriksen stepped off the transport and immediately regretted every decision that had led him to this moment. The air tasted like rotten eggs and burned metal. The gravity made his bones ache. And the wind, holy hell, the wind hit like a physical blow, carrying grit that sandblasted any exposed skin. Around him, the other 14 Vanguard recruits adjusted their gear, checked their seals, and generally looked like they belonged here. Henriksen looked like someone who'd wandered into the wrong nightmare. The Draventhi from the tower, her name was Kess, caught his eye and made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Still think you can talk your way through this, human?" "We'll find out," he said. Master Instructor Vreth was waiting for them at the compound entrance. Vreth was Kalor, old, scarred, missing half of one arm and most of his patience. He'd been running Vanguard Phase 2 for 16 years, and his record spoke for itself. 63% washout rate, 12% injury rate requiring medical intervention, and zero tolerance for recruits who wasted his time. He looked at the 15 of them like he was already planning their funerals. "Welcome to Tyrith 4, he said. His voice was gravel scraped over broken glass. "You're here because you survived screening. Congratulations. That means exactly nothing." He gestured at the compound behind him. A sprawling complex of prefab structures, training zones, and what looked like an active minefield. Phase 2 is 6 weeks. You will run combat scenarios every day. Live fire, full contact, no safety protocols beyond basic medical monitoring. You will be injured. You will fail. And if you're lucky, you'll learn something before you wash out. He paused. Let that sink in. There are no teams here, no platoons, no support. You succeed alone, or you fail alone. His eyes swept across them, stopped on Henriksen. And if you think you can sit in a corner and observe your way through this, you're wrong. Here, you fight or you leave. Henriksen said nothing. Vreth smiled. It wasn't kind. Gear up. First scenario runs at 0600 tomorrow. Dismissed. The barracks were utilitarian. 15 bunks, 15 lockers, one communal space that smelled like disinfectant and despair. Henriksen claimed a bunk in the corner, old habits, and started unpacking. Kess took the bunk across from him. "You're going to die here." "Probably." "I'm not joking. Vreth doesn't do favorites. He doesn't do second chances. You don't meet standards, you're gone." "I know." "And your whole watching from the sidelines routine? Doesn't work here. There are no sidelines." Henriksen looked up. "Then I guess I'll have to fight." Kess's mandibles clicked. "You don't know how?" "I'll learn. In 6 weeks. If that's what it takes." She stared at him, then shook her head. "You're either the bravest human I've ever met, or the dumbest. Can it be both?" Despite herself, Kess laughed. The first scenario was a disaster. 15 recruits, one objective: secure a hostile structure against automated defenses and extract critical intel. Standard breach and clear. Henriksen had never done a breach and clear in his life. The scenario started at 0600. By 0604, he was pinned behind a barricade, suppression fire chewing through his cover, and absolutely no idea what he was supposed to do next. A Vryn recruit named Kaleth vaulted over the barricade beside him, plasma rifle blazing. "Move!" Kaleth shouted. Henriksen moved. He made it 3 meters before a stun round caught him in the chest. The impact drove the air from his lungs and sent him sprawling. His vision blurred. His muscles spasmed. Through the haze, he saw Kaleth go down. Then Kess. Then 2 more recruits he didn't know. The scenario ended in 12 minutes. Casualties, 14. Survivors, 1. Henriksen wasn't the survivor. Vreth made them watch the playback. All of it. Every mistake. Every mistimed entry. Every missed sightline. When it was over, he turned to Henriksen. "You," he said. "What did you do wrong?" Henriksen's ribs still ached from the stun round. Everything. Specifically, I froze. Didn't assess the threat. Didn't move with purpose. Got in Kaleth's way. Created a choke point that got 3 people hit. Vreth nodded. Anything else? Henriksen hesitated. Looked at the frozen playback. The barricade was a trap. Cover angle was wrong. We should have bypassed it entirely. Gone through the maintenance access on the left. And why didn't you? Because I was too busy not getting shot to think. Several recruits snickered. Vreth didn't. Here's the lesson, he said. Thinking is what keeps you alive. The moment you stop thinking, you're dead. He looked at the rest of them. All of you. Run it again. 1,400 hours. Don't make the same mistakes twice. They ran it again. And again. And again. Henriksen got better. Slowly. Painfully. He learned to move under fire. Learned to read the angles. And learned that combat wasn't about being the fastest or the strongest. It was about being in the right place when it mattered. But he was still the worst fighter in the group. By the end of week 1, the gap was obvious. Kaleth could clear a room in seconds. Kes could hold a position against overwhelming odds. The Seraph, Silara, from the screening, moved like water, slipping through defenses that would have stopped anyone else. Henriksen just survived. Barely. You're improving, Vreth told him after a particularly brutal scenario where Henriksen had managed to not die for a full 18 minutes. But improvement isn't enough. You need results. I'm trying. Trying is irrelevant. Either you meet standards or you don't. Henriksen wanted to argue. Wanted to say that he was learning, that he was adapting, that he just needed more time. But Vreth was already walking away. Week 2 was worse. The scenarios escalated. Tighter timelines, heavier resistance. Environmental hazards that turned every mission into a nightmare. Henriksen kept pace. Barely. He wasn't failing. But he wasn't excelling either. He was just there, in the middle. Unremarkable. And for someone who'd spent the last 3 months being remarkable in all the wrong ways, it was humbling. Kes noticed. You're in your head too much, she said one night in the barracks. Henriksen was reviewing scenario logs on his datapad. Again. What? You spend every night analyzing playback, studying patterns, looking for the optimal solution. She leaned forward. But combat isn't a puzzle. It's chaos. You can't think your way through chaos. Then what am I supposed to do? Stop thinking. I start reacting. That's not how I work. Then maybe you need to work differently. Henriksen looked at her. At this massive 4-armed soldier who could probably snap him in half without trying. How do I do that? He asked. Kes smiled. You let me teach you. The training was brutal. Kes didn't believe in easing into things. She threw Henriksen into live sparring matches, forced him to make split-second decisions under pressure, and every time he hesitated, she hit him. Not hard enough to injure, just hard enough to hurt. Stop thinking, she'd shout as he scrambled away from her third arm. React. I am reacting. No, you're calculating. Different thing. She swept his legs. He went down hard. Again. They went again and again. And slowly, painfully slowly, something shifted. Henriksen stopped trying to predict what Kes would do, stopped trying to find the pattern. He just moved. When she swung, he ducked. When she advanced, he circled. When she created an opening, he took it. He still lost every match, but he lasted longer each time. Better, Kes said after a round where he'd actually managed to land a hit. You're starting to feel it. Feel what? The fight. It's not in your head, it's in your gut. Henriksen wasn't sure he believed her, but he kept training. Week 3 brought a new challenge. Vreth split the 15 recruits into 3 squads of 5. Each squad would run cooperative scenarios. Performance would be evaluated collectively. Henriksen ended up in Squad 2 with Kes, Kaleth, a Zelen named Pyrith, and a Karathi named Shal. Their first scenario was a hostage extraction. Deep in enemy territory. Multiple hostiles. Tight timeline. Standard Vanguard nightmare. They breached the compound at 0620. Caleth took point. Kess provided suppressing fire. Pyrith handled demolitions. Shale covered their 6. And Henriksen watched. Old habits. He saw Caleth move into a corridor with poor sight lines. Saw Perith set a charge with a blast radius that would compromise their exit route. Saw Shal's attention drift toward a secondary threat that wasn't actually a threat. He opened his mouth to call it out. Stopped. Kess's words echoed in his head. Stop thinking. Start reacting. So he reacted. He moved past Caleth, drew fire toward himself, forced the hostiles to reposition. Bought Pyrith 3 seconds to adjust the charge placement. Shouted at Shal to hold position, trust her instincts, focus forward. And it wasn't perfect, but it worked. They extracted the hostages in 19 minutes. 0 casualties. Vreth reviewed the playback in silence, then looked at Henriksen. What changed? He asked. Henriksen thought about it. I stopped watching, started participating. And? It felt wrong, chaotic, like I was going to screw everything up. Did you? No. Vreth nodded. Good. Do it again. Squad 2 became a unit. Not because they were friends, though some of them were becoming that, but because they learned to trust each other's instincts. Caleth trusted Henriksen's reads on enemy positions. Henriksen trusted Kess's combat judgment. Kess trusted Pirith's demolition timing. Pyrith trusted Shal's perimeter control. Shal trusted Caleth's aggression. It was a closed loop. Each person filling the gaps the others left. Na and Henriksen found his place in it. Not as the strongest, not as the fastest, as the one who saw the spaces between. The moments when the plans started to fracture. The places where chaos was about to break through. And he moved into those spaces, shored them up, held the line. By the end of week 4, Squad 2 had the highest success rate in the program. Vreth stopped calling Henriksen out during debriefs, started asking his opinion instead. Hostage scenario day 23. Your squad deviated from standard extraction protocol. Why? Henriksen pulled up the log. Standard protocol assumes the hostiles are defending a fixed position, but their patrol pattern was reactive, not defensive. They were hunting something, probably us. So we switched to a mobile extraction, kept moving, denied them a static target. Whose call was that? Collective. Caleth saw the patrol shift. I recognized the pattern. Kess made the call to adapt. Pyrith and Shal executed. Vreth studied him. You're not leading. No, sir. But you're shaping the fight. I'm contributing. That's not what I asked. Henriksen met his gaze. I'm not a leader. I'm a translator. I see what's happening, and I help the people who are better fighters than me make better decisions. And you think that's enough? I think it's what I'm good at. Vreth was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Dismissed. Week 5 was the breaking point. Vreth introduced the final evaluation scenario. A 48-hour field exercise. 3 squads, 1 objective. Secure and hold a strategic position against rotating enemy forces. No resupply, no reinforcements, and no extraction until the timer ran out. It was designed to be unwinnable. Squad 2 drew the worst starting position. Again. Low ground, no natural cover, 3 exposed approach vectors. Henriksen looked at the terrain map and laughed. What's funny? Kess asked. We've done this before. Station Kilos, Phase 1 eval, same setup. And we held for 12 hours against an unbeatable scenario. He grinned. Let's see if we can break our own record. The scenario began at 0800. First enemy wave hit at 0815. Squad 2 dug in, returned fire, held position. Second wave, third wave, fourth. Henriksen didn't sit in the back this time. He fought, moved, called targets, covered gaps. At hour 6, Caleth took a hit, went down hard. Henriksen dragged him to cover, sealed the wound, got him back in the fight. At hour 12, their ammunition ran low. Pirith rigged makeshift explosives from salvaged enemy ordnance, At hour 18, Schall's position got overrun. Kess held the line alone while Henriksen and the others repositioned. At hour 24, they were exhausted, battered, running on fumes, and they were still holding. Vreth watched from the monitoring station, eyes locked on the feed. "They're going to break," Javik said. He'd come to observe the final eval. "No one holds past 26 hours. They've held past 12 before," Kaltesh said quietly. "That was a simulation. This is real ordnance, real injuries. They're Squad 2. They'll hold." Javik looked at her. "You believe that? I've watched Henriksen turn unremarkable soldiers into an unbreakable unit. If anyone can do this, it's them." On screen, Henriksen's voice crackled over comms. "Kess, collapse the left flank. Funnel them into the kill box." She did. The enemy poured into a narrow choke point. Squad 2 cut them down. Hour 26, hour 30, hour 36. The other two squads had already withdrawn. Casualties too high. Position untenable. Only Squad 2 remained. At hour 40, Pyrith ran out of explosives. At hour 42, Schall's rifle jammed. At hour 45, Kess took a hit that should have dropped her. She stayed on her feet. 3 hours, she growled over comms. "We hold for 3 more hours." "We can't," Caleth said. He was bleeding from 3 separate wounds. "We're done." "We're not done until the timer says we're done." Henriksen's voice, calm. "She's right. 3 hours. We've come this far. We finish." Silence. Then Caleth laughed. Painful. Breathless. "You're all insane." "Yeah," Henriksen said. "We are." They held. At hour 48, the timer ran out. The klaxon sounded. Squad 2 collapsed where they stood. Vreth called the medevac and updated his eval report. Squad 2, full Vanguard qualification. Unanimous recommendation for deployment. The ceremony was small. 15 recruits stood in the main hall of Station Callus 9, wearing the black and silver insignia of Vanguard qualified operatives. Behind them, the instructors who'd pushed them to their limits. In front of them, a council representative who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Commander Sethis of the Vryn Diplomatic Corps read from a prepared statement. By order of the Galactic Defense Initiative Council, the following recruits have successfully completed Vanguard Phase 2 training and are hereby certified for active deployment. The names rolled out. Species, homeworlds, specializations. When Sethis reached Henriksen, he paused. Recruit 4477, Henriksen, Monsieur Terran, non-standard combatant. Specialty, tactical analysis and adaptive strategy. Henriksen caught Kess's eye. She was trying not to laugh. Non-standard combatant, she muttered. That's one way to put it. Could be worse, Henriksen whispered back. Could have said, the guy who talks too much. They're saving that for your tactical call sign. I hate you. No, you don't. After the ceremony, Kaltesh found him in the corridor. Congratulations, she said. Thank you, ma'am. You proved me wrong. About what? About humans. About you. She tilted her head. All 6 eyes focused on him. I thought you'd wash out in the first week. I was wrong. Henriksen shrugged. I almost did wash out, multiple times. But you didn't. You adapted, learned, became something I didn't expect. She paused. The council is assigning Vanguard graduates to active duty postings. You'll receive your orders within the week. Do you know where I'm going? No, but wherever it is, they're getting a soldier who fights with his brain instead of his fists. That's rarer than you think. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. Henriksen smiled. I'll take it. The orders came 3 days later. Henriksen was assigned to the Astral Vanguard, a GDI frigate operating in the outer reaches. Patrol duty, border security, low-intensity operations. It was exactly the kind of posting you'd give to a rookie who qualified but wasn't expected to see real action. Henriksen didn't care. He packed his gear. Said goodbye to Platoon 7, most of whom were still in support training, and looked at him like he'd grown a second head when they found out he'd qualified for Vanguard. Kess was assigned to the same ship. So was Kaleth. Squad 2 rides again? Kess said as they boarded the transport. Minus Pyrith and Shal? Kaleth added. They'd been assigned to different postings. Pyrith to a demolitions unit, Shal to reconnaissance. We'll manage, Henriksen said. Famous last words? The Astral Vanguard was a Kalor-class frigate, fast, well-armed, and just large enough to house a crew of 40. The commanding officer was Captain Eris, a seraph with 20 years of service and a reputation for running a tight ship. She met them in the hangar bay. "Welcome aboard," she said. Her voice was clipped, professional. "I've reviewed your files. Vanguard quals are impressive, but this isn't a training station. We run live operations, border patrol, smuggler interdiction, occasional first contact scenarios. You follow orders. You stay sharp. You don't get anyone killed. Clear?" "Yes, ma'am," they said in unison. "Good. Stow your gear. Report to your stations at 0600. Dismissed." The first 2 months were uneventful. Patrol routes, sensor sweeps, intercepting the occasional cargo hauler that strayed into restricted space. Henriksen was assigned to tactical analysis. He sat in the CIC, monitored sensor data, and provided threat assessments to the bridge crew. It was exactly what Javik had predicted back on Kalos 9. Intelligence work. Safe. Useful. Not combat. Henriksen didn't mind. He was good at it. And honestly, after 6 weeks of getting shot at on Tyrith 4, boring was a nice change of pace. Kess and Kaleth were assigned to the shipboard security detachment. They ran drills, maintained weapons, complained about being bored. "I didn't survive Vanguard training to babysit a cargo bay," Kess grumbled one night in the mess. "Could be worse," Henriksen said. "Could be actual combat. I'd take combat over this. Careful what you wish for." 3 months into their deployment, they got the distress call. It came from the edge of GDI space. A colony transport, the Meridian Dawn, reporting engine failure and requesting immediate assistance. Standard rescue op. Captain Eris diverted course. And estimated arrival, 6 hours. Henriksen was running the sensor sweep when something pinged wrong. He pulled up the data, ran it again. The Meridian Dawn's distress beacon was broadcasting on an outdated frequency. The kind that hadn't been used in over a decade. He flagged it, sent it to the bridge. Captain Eris reviewed it, frowned. "Could be an old ship," she said. "Could be," Henriksen agreed, "or it could be bait. You think this is a trap? I think it's worth being cautious." Eris considered, then keyed the comms. "All hands, condition yellow. Defensive posture. Approach with caution." They dropped out of FTL 2,000 kilometers from the Meridian Dawn's last known position. The transport was there, drifting, no power, no life signs. But there were 3 other ships in the area. Unmarked. Non-standard configurations. Holding position just outside weapons range. Pirates. "Contact," the sensor officer called. 3 vessels. Hostile configuration. They're not responding to hails. Captain Eris's tail lashed. Tension. Tactical assessment. Henriksen pulled the data. They're using the transport as bait, waiting for a rescue ship to commit to docking. Then they close in, board, strip the ship. Can we take them? In a straight fight? Maybe. We've got better shields, better firepower, but they've got numbers and positioning. So what do you recommend? Henriksen thought fast, looked at the tactical display, ran probabilities. We don't commit, we make them think we're committing. Explain. We broadcast a docking approach, full engine signature, make it loud, draw them in. But we don't actually dock. We drop a shuttle with a skeleton crew. Let them think we're salvaging the transport. When the pirates close in, we hit them from range. Eris studied the display. That puts the shuttle crew at risk. Yes, ma'am, but it's lower risk than a direct engagement. She was silent for 5 seconds, then nodded. Do it. Assemble a shuttle crew. Volunteers only. Kess and Kaleth volunteered immediately. So did Henriksen. Eris looked at him. Your tactical analysis, not boarding crew. I know the plan. I should be there to adjust if it goes wrong. If it goes wrong, you'll be in the line of fire. Wouldn't be the first time. Eris's tail stilled. Then she smiled. Thin, sharp. Permission granted. Don't get killed. I'll do my best. The shuttle launched at 14:20. Henriksen, Kess, Callith, and 2 other security personnel. Armored, ready. They made a slow, obvious approach to the Meridian Dawn. On the Astral Vanguard, Captain Eris watched the pirate ships. They held position, watching. The shuttle docked. The team entered the transport, activated minimal life support, made it look like they were searching for survivors. The pirate ships moved, slowly, casually, closing the distance. Here they come, Henriksen said over comms. Eris's voice crackled back. Hold position. Let them get close. The pirates closed to 500 meters, 400, 300. Now, Eris said. The Astral Vanguard opened fire. Railgun rounds tore through the lead pirate ship. It spun, vented atmosphere, tried to return fire. The other 2 ships scattered. They're running, the sensor officer reported. No, Henriksen said, watching the tactical display from the shuttle. They're repositioning. Trying to flank. He was right. The pirates split. One went high. One went low. Trying to bracket the Astral Vanguard. Captain, you've got incoming on Vector 7 and Vector 12. They're going to crossfire you. Eris swore. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire on the high target. The Astral Vanguard rolled, fired, clipped the high ship's engines, but the low ship got through. Opened fire. Hit the frigate's port shields. Alarms blared. Shields at 60%, the tactical officer called. Henriksen's mind raced. The pirates were coordinating. They'd done this before. They were good. And the Astral Vanguard was about to get shredded. Unless... Kess, he said. Callith, we've got ordnance on this transport, right? Cargo manifest says mining charges, Callith replied. Why? Because we're sitting on a giant bomb. And those pirate ships are coming around for another pass. Kess caught on immediately. You want to blow the transport? I want to make it look like we're blowing the transport. Force them to reposition. Buy the Vanguard time to recover. That's insane. Do you have a better idea? Silence. Then Kess laughed. Let's do it. They rigged the mining charges in under 3 minutes. Set the detonators on remote trigger. Evacuated to the shuttle. Captain, Henriksen called over comms. We're going loud. When we blow the transport, the pirates are going to scatter. Hit the closest one while they're confused. Understood. Stand by. Henriksen triggered the charges. The Meridian Dawn exploded. Not a catastrophic detonation. Just enough to look like a chain reaction. Fire. Debris. A blooming cloud of wreckage. The pirate ships broke off immediately. Confused. Trying to figure out what just happened. The Astral Vanguard didn't hesitate. Railgun fire punched through the nearest pirate ship. Tore it apart. The remaining ship ran. Jumped to FTL, gone. The shuttle returned to the Astral Vanguard 40 minutes later. Captain Eris was waiting in the hangar bay. That was reckless, she said. Yes, ma'am, Henriksen replied. It was also effective. Thank you, ma'am. She studied him. You're not what I expected when I read non-standard combatant on your file. I get that a lot. Good, because I'm assigning you to Bridge Tactical, permanent posting. If you're going to keep coming up with insane plans, I want you where I can use them. Henriksen blinked. Ma'am? You heard me. Dismissed. 6 months later, the Astral Vanguard was reassigned to active combat operations in the contested outer reaches. By then, Henriksen had earned a reputation, not as a warrior, not as a hero, as the human who saw things others didn't, who turned bad situations into survivable ones, who made impossible odds just slightly less impossible. The crew called him the Analyst. Kess called him the Freak. Captain Eris called him the best tactical officer I've ever worked with. And when the GDI High Command started asking questions about the human who'd qualified for Vanguard, without meeting standard combat metrics, who'd held an indefensible position for 48 hours, who'd turned a pirate ambush into a rout, Koltesh sent them Henriksen's file. All of it, with one note appended: he doesn't fight like us, he doesn't think like us. And that's exactly why we need him. 3 years after Henriksen joined the GDI, Earth submitted a proposal to expand human recruitment. The Council reviewed it, and for the first time in galactic history, they didn't just approve it, they fast-tracked it. Because somewhere along the way, they'd learned what Henriksen had been trying to show them all along. Humans weren't weak, they were just different. And different was exactly what the galaxy needed. Henriksen heard about the Council decision while sitting in the CIC of the Astral Vanguard, reviewing sensor data for their next patrol route. Kess leaned over his shoulder. "Congratulations," she said. "You just changed the galaxy." Henriksen shrugged. I just paid attention. Is that what you're going to tell the history books? History books? You don't think they're going to write about this? The human recruit who nobody wanted, who couldn't fight, who changed everything anyway." Henriksen thought about it, then smiled. "If they do," he said, "I hope they get the details right." Kess laughed. And somewhere on Earth, a new generation of recruits read the reports, saw the name Henriksen M, and decided to apply. Because if one ignored recruit could become the galaxy's biggest asset, what could the rest of them do?